counting down less than 5 hours until the polls close nationwide. Americans are still making sure to vote so their votes do count. We are joined again by Voice of America correspondent Chris Casquejo. Welcome back, Chris.
Good to be with you.
So, Chris, you are over in Michigan, where vote counting will commence in the coming hour. Now, how has the election day been over in Michigan?
Well, the polls just closed within the past 5 minutes, but anybody who was in line as of 8 p.m. will still be allowed to cast their ballot because they were already in line. Now, the vote has been going pretty smoothly here in Michigan. There have been some small problems. A voting precinct in a suburb called Northville, which is in both Wayne and Oakland counties, so it's part of suburban Detroit. They had to relocate on election day today because they had a gas leak temporarily. Now, Oakland County, which is a prosperous and heavily populated county to the north of us, had brief issues with vote tabulators on election day, but they were able to bring in backup tabulators, so those ballots should have no problems. Now, election officials here in the state of Michigan said that same-day registration had hit 3,700, so there's 3,700 new voters in the state. And in the major city here in Detroit, 95% of the early and absentee and mail-in ballots have already been counted today because they were allowed to count them starting 8 days before the election. So Detroit, which is the biggest city in the state, could have its votes counted by the end of the night or tomorrow, which means Michigan, we could have Michigan's result, whether it went for Trump or Harris, tonight or tomorrow.
Right. I'm sure there were thousands of people who voted. Now, the question is, what did some of the voters, in Michigan have to say about the election before and after casting the ballot?
Well, I spent most of my day in Dearborn, Michigan, which is the first Arab majority city in the U.S. And a lot of the voters there are angry about the war in Gaza. They have family in Gaza and Lebanon, so it affects them personally. And 46% of the population in Dearborn, which is about 110,000, is Muslim. So this is an issue that hits close to home for them. A lot of the people we talked to didn't even want to go on camera to let us know which candidate they supported, but they said they cannot support a candidate who would keep the killing going on in these places. So whether they voted for a third-party candidate, whether they voted for Harris or Trump, they didn't even want to say.
Well, I'm sure the most anxious people at the moment are the two candidates, Harris and Trump. What are the two candidates up to on voting day?
Right. So Donald Trump cast his ballot in Palm Beach earlier today. Then he spent some time at his estate, Mar-a-Lago, and now he should be headed to a celebration. What he hopes is a victory celebration, and he can give a victory speech sometime tonight at the Palm Beach County Convention Center. Meanwhile, Harris spent her day in Washington. She was at the Democratic National Committee meeting with some of the people who were phone banking on her behalf. And then she will be heading to an outdoor celebration at her alma mater, Howard University, a historically Black college and university in D.C., and she hopes to give her victory speech tonight. But of course, we might not have any of the results in by the end of the night. So These could just be celebrations marking the end of their campaigns.
So we do know it could take days, or we have to wait possibly days to see who actually wins, but who formally declares the winner, at the end?
Well, this is important. A candidate cannot declare victory, especially before all the votes are counted. And they are just the presumed president-elect because there's a weeks-long and a couple of months-long process. Each state's electoral college electors meet in their state capitals. DC's meet in DC to formally cast their votes for the president and vice president on the first Tuesday and the second Wednesday in December. This year, that's December 17th. On January 6th, an important date, which we saw in 2021, Congress convenes to count the electoral votes and certify the winner of the election. Now, because the sitting vice president serves as the president of the Senate, Kamala Harris will actually preside over this count in 2025, just as Mike Pence did in January 2021 when Joe Biden officially became the president-elect. Now, each state called in alphabetical order files its votes. Now, this process is normally ceremonial, but based on what happened last time around, the concession speeches happened long ago, but officially that is when the president will be decided, even though it seems like it's a mere formality by the time it's January 6th.
All right, Chris, before I let you go, briefly, what is next after a new leader is elected then?
Well, the transition begins. They start embedding their people within all the federal agencies, and it's a very quick process because they take the oath of office in January, the third week of January. So it's a very quick process. You'll start to hear names after, the states are called, and the winner gets 270 electoral votes within the next few days or so. And you'll start hearing, whichever candidate wins, you'll start hearing names of possible cabinet secretaries and cabinet heads and heads of agencies. So it'll be a very quick process once we know who is the eventual winner.
Well, it is going to be a long night, or rather an exciting and anxious next couple of days even. Thanks, Chris, for connecting with us today. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you as always.